Welcome back to the Waking Dreams devlogs. This is devlog 2 of the Waking Dream. Last time I showed the early state of the Waking Dream. Devlog 1 mainly focused on the collision system, and I mentioned I'd be talking about modeling, rigging, and animation. Throughout those 2 weeks, I've been learning a lot about Blender's rigging and animation, but I also spent a lot of time working on Luna. She's part of the main party. She's also very important for the story. It took me 2 attempts to model her. Unfortunately, the first attempt didn't go as planned, mainly because it didn't fit the style I was aiming for. Thankfully, my second attempt did, and it turned out much better than I expected. While sculpting, I used a lot of my own methods. One way I like to sculpt is by using guidelines. My guidelines are specifically based off the Loomis method, which is commonly used to draw heads. It's usually applied to realistic heads, but I made some adjustments to it so that it fit a more stylized style. I also referenced a lot from Pixar. Pixar is amazing at having their characters be built out of very geometric shapes, and then they ground those shapes in a way that's believable. And with Luna, her main shapes are a triangle and a circle. I especially wanted to capture that in the sculpt. Plus, it's a pretty good silhouette, and it's very easy to identify. So just being able to do that is a win in my book. For the art style, whenever I imagined it, I often imagined a 3D art style that sort of feels very 2D in spirit. I don't know if I'm describing that right. Like a 2D style translated into 3D. Especially one where the animation is very similar to 2D animation. Later on, I want to try a few 2D animations on my own, and then I'll see if I can translate that onto a 3D rig. I think what I learned most of all was to work with a reference, not against it. I made many mistakes while rigging, while animating, and while sculpting, but I feel like each moment taught me something that a tutorial could never teach me, and that information will stay with me. If I had to choose one thing I learned, it'd be making mistakes and starting over isn't failure, it's progress. In the meantime, I'll continue sculpting Luna, and I'll continue developing a pipeline for the remaining characters. I'll also be looking into 2D animation. I tried using 3D animation, it didn't quite click, although that was probably just because I couldn't visualize the motion as well as I could with 2D animation. Overall, I feel like a lot of progress was made in these last 2 weeks. I want to thank everyone who watched the video till the end, as well as my first 6 subscribers. Thank you guys. And I want to thank everyone who watched the last devlog. Stay tuned for more updates in the future, and have a wonderful day.